Hey guys, this is Tierlis here with another Warlords of Draenor beta video focusing on Enhancement Shamans this time around. Checking out the major changes to the class, the spec, the changed abilities, their changed glyphs, their new Draenor perks, and their level 100 talents. As far as major changes to Enhancement Shamans, there aren't many. Weapon imbues across the entire class are gone, so your Wind Fury weapon and your Flame Tongue weapon are basically have been removed from the game, and they're now baked directly in the class. They're just known as empowered weapons of something like that, and it gives you all the effects that Wind Fury and Flame Tongue did. It's just you no longer have to actually apply them to your weapons anymore. So it's more of a quality of life change. You know, no one like just personally buffing them selves all the time. So that has been taken out of the game. The biggest change though for Enhancement Shamans has to be the internal cooldown of Wind Fury. Most people don't know this, but after Burning Crusade at some point, they took the cooldown of Enhancement of Wind Fury weapon and they increased it to like 3 seconds or something. You'll notice right there, I got several Wind Fury weapons right in a row. They have dropped the internal cooldown of Wind Fury weapon from, I can't remember where it was, 3-4 seconds, and they have brought it all the way down to either 0 or 0.1. They really don't like the idea of Wind Fury proccing off of itself or proccing off of multi-strikes. So that is why there might be a 0.1 or 0.2 second delay. But for the most part, they're back to the point where in Burning Crusade where you can have Wind Fury procs happen all the time. So definitely a huge change that you will notice upon the class. You'll start seeing more Wind Fury weapon procs, which is exciting. I mean, that was the big thing for Enhancement Shamans, were those Weapon Fury procs. Otherwise, those are the huge changes to Enhancement Shamans. Probably the next bulk of changes comes into their changed abilities. First one to look at is Flurry. Flurry's still in the game, however, it's pretty much been changed completely. It used to increase your attack speed for about 5 attacks, and it gave you a 50% bonus to your haste stats. Well, that's been pretty much changed completely. Now, melee haste effects lower the cooldown and global cooldown of your Storm Strike, Lava Lash, Shocks, Unleash Elements, and Fire Nova. Basically, the whole reasoning, it works like Rep Paladins, so to say. Rep Paladins have the same thing. So the more haste you get, the more your cooldowns of your major abilities go down. I like it. It doesn't seem as impactful when I'm playing on my Ret, but it's possible in Warlords of Draenor they changed it around so that it's actually a little bit more impactful. Another change was brought to Maelstrom Weapon, and it's a PvP change, and that is that Maelstrom Weapon can no longer apply to Hex. So that kind of hurts to the PvPers out there, but that is a PvP nerf they put into Maelstrom Weapon. Shamanistic Rage has changed a little bit too. It still reduces all damage taken by 30% for 15 seconds. However, they took the mana portion out of it. And honestly, they took the mana portion out of everything across Shaman DPS across the board because they really don't want to bother with, I don't know why, but they don't want to bother with mana ever being an issue in the class ever again, which I honestly think is disappointing. It kind of added some complexity, and now you don't have that anymore. So that has been removed from Shamanistic Rage. There is a PvP nerf in Hex. It is now a 1.7 second cast, up from 1.5. And lastly, Unleash Elements. That is affected by the weapon imbues being gone from the game. So now Unleash Elements just automatically has that Wind Fury weapon and that Flame Tongue weapon applied to it. I can come up here and attack target, and I'll have a nice little Wind Fire spell visual. And everything that applied to the old Wind Fury weapon now applies to this. So that's it's just a quality of life change and whatnot with the weapon imbues and so forth. Nothing really drastically has changed there. So before we get into the removed abilities, and Enhancement Shamans have a lot of it, I'm going to show you some new spell visuals dealing with the wolves. They have updated the Enhancement Shaman wolves to the models that they have created in Draenor. So I'm going to pop my Spirit Wolves, and I'm even going to transform myself into Ghost Wolf, and you will see the brand new updated models. They just look way better than the old models. So definitely more pixels in these wolves. Love these new Ghost Wolves over here on the side. So definitely improvement from what it used to be. Going into the removed abilities, a lot of them have to deal with the weapons being, you know, kind of condensed down, and the mana being kind of removed as a requirement for doing DPS these days. So Primal Wisdom, which gave you a chance to restore mana, has been removed. Searing Flames, when your Searing Totem deals damage, your fire or fire elemental lands a melee attack. Your damage dealt by your Flame Tongue weapon is increased by 8% for 15 seconds. Stacking, so that has been removed from the game. There is Static Shock, which is whenever you use Storm Strike or Lava Lash abilities while having Lightning Shield active, you have a 45% chance to deal damage equal to Lightning Shield Orb. That has been removed. Unleashed Rage, which was a kind of raid-wide buff, has been removed. And then all 4 weapon abuses have been removed. Wind Fury, Flame Tongue, Frost Brand, and Rock Biter, all gone. Bind Elemental is gone. Stormlash Totem, which was a nature damage buff across the raid, has been removed. And then something probably a little surprising to you here, Earth Shock has been removed from Enhancement. It is now an elemental only spell. Its Weakened Blows debuff was taken away from the spell anyways, so there's really not much use for it on an Enhancement Shaman anymore. Healing Tide Totem is now Restoration only, so that has been removed. And then Spirit Walker's Grace is now elemental and Restoration only, so that has been all removed. That wraps up everything with abilities, and so it allows us to move into Glyphs. Now, before I get into the new Glyphs, because they did get a plenty of new Glyphs, they lost Glyph of Healing Storm, which each application of Maelstrom weapon also increases your direct healing done by 20%. The good news is that that has been baked directly into Maelstrom weapons, so now you no longer have to have a Glyph to take that, it's just already in there. So nothing but good news there. And then on top of that, they have these new Glyphs. Some of them I really like. So going into it, we have Glyph of Ephemeral Spirits. Pronouncing that right, not sure. Reduces the cooldown of Feral Spirit by 60 seconds, and reduces the duration by 15 seconds. So one thing you should notice there is that it says exclusive with Feral Spirit, and that basically means that you can only have one of these 2 glyphs active at a time. You cannot have both. So it's I don't know how well it's going to be used. It's been a while since I played Enhancement, but it should be. We'll see how it works out. I don't know if people are going to be wanting the more longer duration wolves or not. So going down the list, we also have probably my favorite glyph that they have added in the game, and that is Glyph of Frost Flame Weapon. While your weapon is imbued with Flame Tongue weapon, which it always is now because that's the change that it has, your attacks also slow the target's movement speed by 50% for 3 seconds. So basically, they took Frostbrand weapon's auto attack buff, and with this glyph, you can now have Frostbrand weapon, Wind Fury weapon, and Flame Tongue weapon all active on your Enhancement Shaman at the same time. Awesome, awesome buff. Before, Frostbrand weapon wasn't really taken because you needed that Flame Tongue enchantment and how it interacts with Lava Lash. Since that's been taken out now, and you now have this glyph, it's really a great buff for Enhancement Shamans. I'm pretty sure that anybody playing PvP in Enhancement Shamans will probably be taking this glyph. Let's see, there is Glyph of Grounding, which reduces the cooldown of Grounding Totem by 3 seconds. There is Glyph of Lava Spread, which increases the radius at which Lava Lash spreads Flame Shock by 8 yards. There is Glyph of Reactive Shielding, which you should Lightning Shield now trigger once every 1.5 seconds, so it lowers the internal cooldown on Lightning Shield. There's Glyph of Shamanistic Resolve, which Shamanistic Rage reduces damage taken by an additional 30%, but the cooldown of Shamanistic Rage has been increased by 60 seconds. That shares an exclusive glyph with Glyph of Shamanistic Rage. Basically brings your Shamanistic Rage ability up to 60% reduction, but it takes longer. And then the last one is Glyph of Shocks, which increases the range on Earth Shock, Flame Shock. It's the old glove bonus, basically. They put it into a glyph, so that can be seen as a little nerf of sorts. There's also another one up here that I kind of like. It's Glyph of Ghostly Speed, but it ties in with Glyph of Ghost Wolf, so PvPers probably don't want to take it. But out in the world, it's pretty awesome. It basically gives you an instant cast ground mount that you can take everywhere. So if you're playing an Ashran, that might actually be pretty cool, because it doesn't look like it's going to be it's not going to be disabled there. So that's definitely a cool glyph that you may consider taking, especially since right now it's considered a minor glyph. So that's all of the glyphs. Moving into the Draenor perks of the class. I recently found out that all the Draenor perks were housed in the General tab. I never thought to look here, but here they are. They're all standing here. So we have Enhanced Unleashed Elements, which is your Unleashed Elements ability also causes you to gain 30% increased movement speed for 4 seconds. So that's a nice buff for Enhancement, who has always been kind of mobility challenged in terms of speeding up compared to the other classes that have Charge, or the monks that have crazy mobility. There is Improved Feral Spear, which is a straight damage buff. Improved Fire Totems, which is a straight damage buff for your fire totems. Improved Flame Shock. This one's pretty nice. Your Flame Shock ticks have a 15% to reset the cooldown on Lava Lash. There are 2 improved Lava Lash ones at the moment. One's just a straight damage buff, and then one increases the number of targets that Flame Shock spreads to by 2. There's Improved Maelstrom Weapon, which increases your damage stacking, depending on how many stacks you have, by 20%. And then there is Improved Reincarnation, which increases the health that you reincarnate with by an additional 50%. Improved Storm Strike is the last one, and it's just a straight damage buff. So they actually, in terms of Glyph and Draenor perks, I think Enhancement Shamans came out pretty well with, Glyph of Frost Flame Weapon, and then Enhanced Unleash Elements, stuff like that. So they really they didn't get the bad end of the stick on those 2 departments. The last thing I need to talk about for Enhancement Shamans are the talents. And before we get into the level 100 talents, I need to look at 3 before then. Earth Grab. Earth Grab now shares diminishing returns with all other root effects. I would not worry about this too much, because they've done this across the board. Like, global diminishing returns have been brought in to reduce the amount of CC in a PvP environment, because right now it's kind of absurd. So I wouldn't worry about this, because this is affecting everyone. You're going to have to pay attention more to whether a target's been hit with an entangling roots by your druid friend or whatnot. So watch out for that. Ancestral Swiftness no longer can make Hex instant cast, so they're really cutting back on the instant cast Hex. So that is a PvP nerf. Echo of the Elements used to be like your multi-strike, ability, but now with multi-strike actually being a stat in the game, they needed to change Echo of the Elements to make it more unique. So now it's your spells and abilities have a chance to cause your next Lava Lash, Storm Strike, Frost Shock, or Fire Nova to not incur its cooldown. It's nice. I still like having Echo of the Elements. It's still my favorite of all the of that tier. So getting into the bottom with the level 100 talents. First, I'm going to start with Elemental Fusion down here, and basically your Lava Burst and Lava Lash increase the damage of your next shock by 50%, stacking up to 2 times. So I'll go ahead and just show you the buff real quick. It's up in the top right hand corner. You can see it increased by 50%. Says increase your shocks, but you don't have Earth Shock anymore. So it's basically your Flame Shock or your Frost Shock. I don't know if it improves the damage of your Flame Shock dot, or it's just your Flame Shock initial hit. Overall, I don't see Enhancement Shamans taking this very much, to be honest. So the talent on the right here is Liquid Magma, which is by far my favorite. It is so cool. Empowers your current fire totem with the power of lava, causing liquid magma to erupt from it towards random enemies within 40 yards every 0.5 seconds for 10 seconds. Each glob of liquid magma deals 2600 fire damage to all enemies within 4 yards. So I'm going to put my totem down, and you're going to see this awesome spell visual. Actually, we'll put it back a little bit further. You're going to see this great spell visual here. Go ahead and close this. And get started, and then fire this away. That is one of the coolest spell visuals in the game, and as long as you're in combat with them, it'll do other targets as well. So you can see it's now starting to attack the other one as well. 45-second cooldown. Honestly, I think it's so cool. Like, if you pop that in a PvP setting, and just watching those little lava globs, you know, chase someone across the map is going to be cool enough just to watch. So the only problem with it is that with the fact that you be in a PvP environment or in a PvE environment, if this ever happened, you're in combat with multiple things, and then all of a sudden lava globes start going to just random targets that you don't want to be attacking and not focusing the target you want to be attacking. So I can see that being a problem. Maybe they can introduce a glyph to focus it better, but I'm not sure they'll do that since it's a talent. So we'll see what happens. The last glyph for Enhancement Shamans is Storm Elemental Totem, and it basically is a ranged fire elemental totem with healing capabilities. Summons an air totem with 6,000 health at the feet of the caster, calling forth a greater storm elemental to hurl gusts of wind at the caster's enemies. Each gust of wind does damage to the enemy and heals all allies within 15 yards for 100% of the damage dealt, split evenly. I see a lot of Enhancement Shamans taking this because if you think about it, I mean, you put this down, and since it's going to be attacking from a distance, it's going to be dropping this little healing buff over you every time it deals damage. You can already start seeing the healing numbers pop up beneath me. It's going to give you your free heal, and it's going to be doing damage at the same time. The only thing that's disappointing is the fact that you don't have a it's a 5-minute cooldown. That's the disappointing thing. I really hate abilities that have huge... Ooh, Gale Force. I had no clue that this was there. So they have a ability that knocks people up into the air too. So definitely something to look forward to for PvP. The only thing, as I said, that I don't like is that it's got a 5-minute cooldown, which is really disappointing. We'll see about that. I remember there being a glyph of whatnot that I believe cut down the cooldown of your elemental totem, your fire elemental totem. Maybe it will change it so that we can get them to change it so that it'll apply to this as well, instead of just yeah, this one right here, glyph of fire elemental totem. Maybe we can get them to change it so that it applies to your air totem as well, because that would be probably really nice. So otherwise, those are the main abilities and changes that have come to the Enhancement Shaman class. Not too many changes. The biggest change is the internal cooldown on Wind Fury, but otherwise I think overall Enhancement Shamans are going to be in a lot better place than they have been for a while, especially with those Draenor perks that help out with mobility speed, and the glyphs that allow you to snare that you haven't had because you've had to have Flame Tongue weapon and Wind Fury weapon. So definitely they're in a better place. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and the next video that I'll be doing will be Arcane Mages. I hope to see you in that video. Otherwise, Tierlis out. See ya.